Hi, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. Happy to be back with you. We're going to continue reading in our book, On the Banks of Plum Creek by Laura Ingalls Wilder. We're on the 15th chapter and it's called The Footbridge. Here's the little picture they have. Next day, remember they had a flood yesterday. Next day, Laura was sure that Ma would not let her go play in the creek. It was still roaring, but more softly. So Laura quietly slipped outdoors without saying anything to Ma. The water was not so high now. It had gone down from the steps and Laura could see it foaming against the footbridge. That's the little bridge they could walk across. Part of the plank was above the water. You know what that means? Part of the plank or the board that made up that bridge was under the water. All winter, the creek had been covered with ice. It had been motionless and still, never making a sound. Now it was running swiftly, making a joyful noise. Where it struck the edge of the plank, it foamed up in a white bubbles and laughed to itself. Laura took off her shoes and stockings and put them safely on the bottom step. Then she walked out on the plank and stood watching the noisy water. Drops splashed her bare feet and thin little waves ran around them. She dabbed one foot in the swirling foam. Then down she sat on the plank and plumped both legs into the water. The creek ran strong against them and she kicked against it. That was fun. Now she was wet almost all over, but her whole skin wanted to be in the water. She lay on her stomach and thrust her arms down each side of the plank, deep into the fast current. But that was not enough for her. She wanted to really be in the roaring, joyous creek. She clasped her hands together, grabbed them together, under the plank and rolled off it. That way she was just being held by her hands and her body was under the water. In that very instant, she knew the creek was not playing. It was strong and it was terrible. It seized, grabbed her whole body and pulled it under the plank. Only her head was out and one arm desperately across the plank. This is what she looked like. She's in big trouble there. The water was pulling her, and it was pushing too. It was trying to drag her head under the plank. Her chin held onto the edge and her arm clutched it while the water pulled hard on all the rest of her. It was not laughing now. No one knew where she was. No one could hear her if she screamed for help. The water roared loud and tugged at her, stronger and stronger. Laura kicked, but the water was stronger than her legs. She got both arms across the plank and pulled, but the water pulled harder. It pulled the back of her head down and it jerked as if it would jerk her into two. It was cold. The coldness soaked into her. It was not like wolves or cattle. The creek was not alive. It was only strong and terrible and never stopping. It would pull her down and whirl her away, rolling and tossing her like a willow branch. It would not care. Her legs were tired and her arms hardly felt the plank anymore. I must get out, I must, she thought. The creek's roaring was in her head. She kicked hard with both feet and pulled hard. with her arms, and then she was on the plank again. The plank was solid under her stomach and under her face. She lay on it and breathed, and she was glad it was solid. When she moved, her head whirled. She crawled off the plank. She took her shoes and her stockings and climbed slowly up the muddy steps. At the door of the dugout, she stopped. She did not know what to say to Ma. After a while, she went in. Just inside the door, she stood still and water dripped off her. Ma was sewing. "Where have you been, Laura?" Ma asked, looking up. And then she came quickly, saying, "My goodness, turn around quick." She began unbuttoning Laura down the back. "What happened? Did you fall in the creek?" "No, ma'am," Laura said. I went in." Ma listened and went on undressing Laura and rubbing her hard all over with a towel. She did not say a word, even when Laura told her everything. Laura's teeth chattered. She was so cold. And Ma wrapped a quilt around her. Quilt is a special homemade blanket. And sat her close to the stove. At last, Ma said, "Well, Laura, you've been a very naughty, and I think you knew it all the time. But I can't punish you. I can't even scold you. You came near to being drowned." Laura did not say anything. "You won't go near that creek till Pa or I say you may, and that won't be till the water goes down," said Ma. "No'm," Laura said. The creek would go down. It would be gentle and pleasant to play in again, but nobody could make it do that. Nobody could make it do anything. Laura knew now that there were things stronger than anybody, but the creek had not got her. It had not made her scream, and it had not made her cry. Well, that was a very bad thing that she did. Because if she hadn't been able to get back up there, she would have drowned. And that would have been very sad. And then Ma and Pa and Mary, they would have all been crying. They wouldn't have even known probably where she was, because her body would have got washed away. We have to think about the things we do. And Laura learned a big lesson in that. Think about the things we do. Well, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I want to pray blessings on you and on yours, in your house and out of your house, in the day and the night. Whatever you do, keep dreaming. If you enjoy this story, please leave me a little comment. You can even leave me a comment if you ever did anything that was really dangerous, put you at risk, that you wish you hadn't done, but you did learn from it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe, push that like button, and share this with anybody that you think might enjoy these type of stories or the other things I put on my channel. All right. I want to say good night now, and God bless you.